Okay, the thing I wanted to speak about tonight is a concept that's discussed a lot in Chassidus. The Rebbe mentioned it many, many times. Chassidus explains why the Shleimus, the ultimate fulfillment of mitzvahs, will be Dafka when Moshiach will come. So Chassidus brings what we say in Musaf, on the prayer of Musaf and Shabbos and Yom Tov. We say V'sham Nasel Lefanecha K'mitzvahs Ritzinecha. V'sham Nasel Lefanecha as Karban Rizcha. We say no there when Mashiach will come and the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. We will bring the sacrifices K'mitzvahs Ritzinecha, like the commandment that you want, like the commandment of your will. So also in Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, we say that we'll build a new Mizbech, a new altar in the third Beis HaMikdash, and Siri Izim Natzav V'Ratzin will bring up a goat's B'Ratzin, that Dafka then will be done like the will of the Eibishter. So Chassidus asks a question, why Dafka precisely when Mashiach will come will be fulfilled in mitzvahs the ultimate way how Hashem wants, and also it seems a little bit, Chassidus asks, does it mean that the mitzvahs that were done in the first Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, they weren't done exactly the way the Eibishter wanted? It's only when Mashiach will come that only then we'll do the mitzvahs the way the Eibishter wants. So the idea that Chassidus speaks a lot about this. The main place that Rebbe would always refer to is a member of the Rebbe Marash in his famous Hemshech series of Memorim that start with V'kocha. So there in Perek Yud Zayin, and further he speaks about it. Really, I think it's a little bit based on the Mittel Rebbe and Derech Chaim at the end. But anyway, the Rebbe spoke about it. There's one mimer that I found from the Rebbe Rashab, Adam Kyakim Kam Tafri Shayin Aleph, which is so far the mimer that I found that clarifies it the most. But anyway, the point, Chassidus explains like this. Chassidus says that first of all, in the Mittel Rebbe gives a theoretical answer, but then he doesn't accept it. The theoretical answer that he gives is, Chassidus explains a lot that the mitzvahs that we do now are done begashmi, so done physically, right? That we all know. You can't fulfill a mitzvah by sitting and meditating about tefillin. It doesn't replace the mitzvah of actually putting on tefillin. However, we find that Adam Rishon, when he fulfilled the mitzvahs, he fulfilled it spiritually. Adam Rishon was in Gan Eden. It was more of a Chassidus discusses exactly what Gan Eden is. What Gan Eden is before the Chet Eitzadas. Yeah, Gan Eden is before there was bad in the world. He also did mitzvahs. Gan Eden is the Ruchni Shebegashmi, it's the spiritual of the physical. It's spiritual. It's not whatever it is. I don't want to get into it. It's a separate discussion. But Adam Rishon was a completely spiritual state. There was no evil in the world. And by Adam Rishon, by all the animals, everything in the world was in a complete pure state. And the idea of doing mitzvahs then was to draw down higher light into this world. So his mitzvahs weren't really based physically. Similarly, the Avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they fulfilled the mitzvahs. Also, they fulfilled the whole Torah, but they didn't necessarily have the physical mitzvahs the same way we have them today. So there's a certain advantage. In other words, there's a certain element of fulfilling the mitzvahs. In other words, when Adam Rishon, after he sinned and he was chased out of Gan Eden, so he also served. It says he was put in the Gan Eden. He was put in the Garden of Eden, loved all the Shamra, to work the garden, which Chassidus explains means to draw down lights. That we draw down through mitzvahs. But then, when he was sinned, he was chased out of Gan Eden, and he had to also work the land. But the work of the land that he did after he was thrown out of Gan Eden, you can't compare to the work of the land that he did before he was thrown out of Gan Eden. Before he was thrown out of Gan Eden was just to draw down higher light. After he was chased out of Gan Eden, he has to deal, even in the simple sense of the word, it says when he had to really work hard to cultivate the things, he would sow something to the ground and he would get back weeds. So he had to refine the lowest elements of creation. So there's a certain, when we do mitzvahs today, we're not fulfilling mitzvahs on the most spiritual, level that could be. So the Mittel Rebbe suggests that when Mashiach will come and then the world will become completely pure the way it was before the sin of the Eitz Hadas, like we know that all the animals will be tame and whatever, a number of examples how the world will be completely pure. So then our fulfillment of the mitzvahs will be on a very spiritual plane. We won't have to deal with the physical elements of creation. We'll be involved in fulfilling mitzvahs in the most spiritual, mystical way. And that is why when Mashiach comes, we'll fulfill the mitzvahs, k'mitzvahs tznecha the way the Eibishter wants. But Mr. Rebbe rejects this idea right away because we know that the ultimate fulfillment of mitzvahs is to fulfill them physically. Furthermore, if you look in the Rambam, or it doesn't. It says, "Eiman elam hadel meisam Mashiach al shiba machis bulvad." The only difference between now Mashiach's coming is that the world will still be a physical world, just we won't be subject to persecution from the nations and so on and so forth. So the focus of Mashiach is fulfilling Torah mitzvahs in a physical world as it is today, not about going into a spiritual state. So what is the meaning that the Afko Mashiach will come fulfill the mitzvahs k'mitzvahs tznecha as the way Hashem wants? So Chassidus mainly speaks about this regarding korbanos, explaining how dafka by korbanos, by sacrifices, do we see that we're fulfilling them when Mashiach will come fulfill them in the highest way possible. But the same thing really applies to everything else in the world. The main idea that Chassidus says is that, again, I'm primarily focuses on korbanos. I'll be speaking. So a lot of it is ideas that are expressed much more by korbanos. Is that by a korban? What's the idea of a korban? Sacrifices, in a certain sense, is we know there's three things in serving the Eibishter. Torah, the three pillars on which the world stands. Torah, learning Torah, avodah, and gemilas chasadim, doing kind deeds, and avodah. What's avodah? Avodah today is tefillah, prayer, but avodah, service, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, went to bring sacrifices. So sacrifices is what the world stands on. It's the avodah of elevating the world, the divine service of elevating the world. So the korbanos, the sacrifices, is that idea of sacrifices is you're making a dir b'tachton, making a dwelling place for Hashem down here. You take a physical entity and you elevate it. And you make godliness able to, like when you took an animal and you burnt it on the altar. There was the fire, there was the Eish Shalamayla, there was the spiritual fire that was lying on the Mizbech that ate up the sacrifices. So there you saw in a very clear way the idea you took a physical thing, you made it holy, you elevated it to the Eibishter. Now, it says, Adam ki yakriv mikem. It says, a man, the Torah starts off that in order to bring korbanos, it says a man amongst you, whatever, that will bring korbanos, a man that will bring korbanos from you. But the word Adam represents Shem HaMayla. There's different names of a person in Torah. There's Adam, Ish. Adam represents a person that's in the highest level he's a mensch, he's a complete person. So Chassidus says, in order to elevate an animal properly, you have to be an Adam. If a person himself is one animal, can't elevate. To put it very simply, Chassidus says very simply, one animal can't elevate another animal. You understand? So if a person is not on the level of an Adam, of a true man, in the sense that he's completely, in control of himself, and he has, he's completely pure and refined. So he can't really elevate the animal. He could elevate, he's obviously higher than the animal in some level. He's still a man, he still has a godly soul, but to have a true and complete refinement of the animal, he can't if he himself is also a little bit of an animal himself. So in order to elevate the nyanim of this world, the things of this world, it has to be that a person has to be in a level of Adam. He himself has to be completely pure, like the pasuk Shleimus of Mitzvos says, Ruach Adam Lamayl, Ruach Behem Eredus Lamata. The spirit of man goes up, the spirit of animal goes down. So to elevate something that's going down, the person himself has to be in a level. He's only going up. So basically, Chassidus says that when Mashiach will come, first of all, the person, really this idea is expressed in every element of creation. The person himself will be on the highest level possible. In the sense that it'll be completely pure. So he won't be himself have any negative thing that's pulling him down that will have that would hinder him from elevating anything else around him. Furthermore, the things in the world, also the animals that will be in the times of Mashiach are not going to be the same animals as we have today. They're going to be already refined. And when a person will elevate them, he's going to be elevating them on a much deeper, essential level than elevating an animal today. The animals that Chassidus speaks about a lot. Mittel Rebbe speaks a lot about the Gemara says, a famous Gemara that said that if the previous generations were like angels, then we are like human beings compared to them. If they are like human beings, we are like donkeys, but not like the donkey of Rav Pinchas ben Yor. There's a donkey of Rav Pinchas ben Yor. There's a number of stories that the Chachamim tell us. For example, that once Rav Pinchas ben Yor took his donkey and he brought it to an inn and they gave it straw to eat and he didn't eat. They asked him why he's not eating. Is he on a special diet? He says that you take 10% from the straw. They said no. So he took 10% and then he ate. So, first of all, Ma'aser, there's no halacha of Ma'aser by Nana, whatever it is, I'm not getting into the... But in other words, his donkey was on a level that was completely refined. Chassidus said, these are the ways the animals were before the sin of the Eitz Hadas. So, the whole world will then be in a much higher level, so the refinement of the world will be complete. The true advantage of the person will be there, so he'll be able to elevate the world in a much more complete way. So this is in general the idea that Chassidus speaks about Kmitzvos Ritzinecha, that why when Moshiach will come, our fulfillment of mitzvahs will be on the ultimate way possible. Because in order with the refinement that we do today is a refinement, but it's not an ultimate refinement. In order to have an ultimate refinement, the person himself has to be on the level that he himself is refined. So he has the ability to elevate the rest of creation. And the rest of creation also, the real, bad elements that are mixed in the creation today will be gone then. So the elevation will be on a much more internal, it will be, you elevate them you'll really connect them with the Eibush in a very fundamental way. Now, the Maimer that I mentioned here, it's the Maimer of the Rebbe Rashab in Tafresh Ein Alpha. It's the only place that I see that it's based on the Rebbe Marash and others, but he explains like this. He says the way he puts it here, he puts it into much more concrete terminology. He says that in order for a person to elevate the world, he obviously has to be higher than this world. So the true idea of the person being higher than the world comes from the essence of his neshama, from his yichida shebenefesh. The person, there's different levels of the neshama. Even the lower levels of the neshama are also higher than the world. But the true, in order to really elevate the real essence of the world, it has to come from a level that's totally beyond this world. It has to come basically that when a person shines by him the essence of his neshama, he's able to elevate the essence of he's able to really affect the things of this world. So he says like this. He says that when a neshama, a yid, is a keli for a mitzvah, when he does a mitzvah, he's able to take the godly light and to elevate something in this world. So he says, when a person's neshama doesn't shine by him in the most complete way, so the mitzvah also that he's doing is not done in the most complete way. Because the mitzvahs the Jew is the vehicle for the light of the mitzvahs to come to this world. If his neshama is not, the essence of his neshama is not fully lighting up his body, so then the essence of the mitzvah is also, you don't see the effect of the essence of the mitzvah either in this world. So he says that, he goes into an interesting thing. He says that even though the Yidden did mitzvahs, the first Beis HaMikdash, second Beis HaMikdash, he says in a certain sense it didn't affect the actual, what he calls it, affected more the spiritual of the physical. Like you took an animal, or most of it also, the way he explains it, at least in this Maimer, is when a person does a mitzvah, and he uses it out for Kedusha, so it was more that the elevation of the thing in the world was expressed through the person using it for the Eibishter, was elevated in his Avodah. You didn't see that the thing itself, the way it was in the world at large, became elevated. That particular animal with which you used to serve the Eibishter was elevated. That particular thing that a person did a mitzvah with, so he took that particular item and he used it for him serving the Eibishter. So based on the level of godliness that was revealed in his neshama, that's how much the item was affected. But he didn't have the ability to affect the things, the items in this world the way they are at large. So he says when Moshiach will come, So then the essence of, Chassidus explains, then will the essence of our neshama will be revealed, our understanding and connection with Eibusher will be completely permeate our existence. So he says when a person is on that level and he does a mitzvah, so then when the essence of the neshama is revealed, the essence of the mitzvah is also revealed. And therefore, the essence of the physical, oh my God, it doesn't matter to say this, but maybe if I'm allowed to put this in these words, the essence of the physical item will also be revealed. It's not just going to be, the item won't only be elevated as much as the person is elevated, huh? Yeah,
So, when Moshiach comes, the Korban is going to be a higher level than Beis Hamikdash Kayim.
Yeah. It says that even Mizman Beis Hamikdash Kayim, in the times of David HaMelech and Shleimus HaMelech, Yidden were in the level of Adam, but it still wasn't the Adam Mishleimus. The Gili HaNeshama, the revelation of the Neshama that was then was still not complete, as will be when Mashiach will come. So he adds further, he says that even now, obviously when a person does a mitzvah, it comes from the essence of his Neshama, but the way he puts it, it's the essence of the neshama is concealed. It's only a ha'ara. It's a ray of the essence of the neshama. The essence of the neshama itself is not revealed in a full way. So he says that that's where Mashiach will come. That is going to be kmitzvah tzinacha. That then, these my mother most speaks about Adam. The word Adam, man, is Asher Tevis, Adam, David, Moshiach. That the Shleimus, the complete level of Adam, of man, that people will be able to be called man, is when Moshiach will come. And the truth is that then it's even higher than Adam, because Chassidus says it's Adam. If you rearrange the letters Adam, which spell man, it becomes Ma'oid, which is unlimited, which is Adam, a man is limited, Ma'oid is unlimited. So basically, the way he puts it here, when you don't have the revelation, the essence of the neshama, everything that gets elevated is as much as it's l'tayelas nafshe. It's just for the sake of his neshama. You're not really. It sounds similar a little bit to what Alter Rebbe is saying, about a tzaddik gomer. That a tzaddik gomer, he elevates the gashmis itself. He's not just elevating the thing, the physicality as for part of his avoida. Whatever, palefin.
So in a way, Golus is not only today. Golus is even when Torah was given. Matan Torah, you'll never reach the matzav as Moshiach.
And Achanami. So
it wasn't by Matan Torah, it wasn't by Kriyas Yamsuf,
it started there.
It started there.
So now on the flip side of the coin, and I'll mention it it's very important to keep this in mind, is that the other hand, in other places it says that there's an advantage in the mitzvahs that we do today. Because at the end of the day is what brings Mashiach. What brings Mashiach is the mitzvahs we do today. So the Rebbe would always bring, the Rebbe Marash explains that what causes the revelation has a certain advantage over the revelation itself. So it's true, I don't want to get into this is a whole separate discussion, but on one hand, Chassidus says that only when Mashiach will come, the mitzvahs will be done in the best way possible. The mitzvahs that are done in the time of Galus, the idea of, in other words, there is an advantage in those mitzvahs in the fact that we're dealing with the Toikaf HaChumrius, we're dealing with the world, the way the coarseness of the world is in full strength, and we have to fight it and elevate it. So from one hand, maybe you could say that we're not elevating it in such a complete revealed way, but on the other hand, the idea of, having to break through the coarseness of this world, the dira b'tachtonim, in the literal sense of the word, of really dealing with the lowest tachton is dafka in dealing with the lowest levels of this world is only in the mitzvahs that we do now. Huh? Also, so Chassidus says that whatever stam. Huh? Yeah.
So, this banking is do the most you could do now.
So it's not as stated. When a Yid does a mitzvah today, he's supposed to be permeated with the awareness that the completion of this mitzvah will be when Mashiach will come. I'm saying there is an advantage, there's an advantage in doing a mitzvah when, in other words, from one hand, all the revelation of Mashiach, and then you'll do the mitzvahs the highest way, comes because we had to do the mitzvahs at a time when we weren't on the level of Adam. We had to, do mitzvahs with Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice. Fine. That's one nekuda. Now, the Rebbe speaks a number of places about this concept of kmitzvah tzinacha, And the Rebbe, there's a number of interesting things. For example, so one Sikha, the Rebbe speaks about the fast days, that when Moshiach will come, we know that the fast days will be turned into Yomim Tovim, turned into joyous days of joy. So the Rebbe connects with the concept of Kmitzvos Tzeinecha, that when Moshiach will come, the mitzvahs will be the way the Eibishter wants. The Rebbe says that the mitzvahs, there's a mitzvah min ha-Torah, that you should fast at a time of distress. I mean, it's a mitzvah in the Torah. It doesn't, there's no mitzvah min ha-Torah to fast on Tisha B'Av. That's the Chachamim instituted to commemorate the Churban. But there is a mitzvah, there's a Rambam Nuchas Tagniyas, it's a time of distress, you're supposed to fast and call out to the Eibishter. So the Rebbe says the Shleimus of the mitzvah of fasting, when Mashiach will come, there won't be any room for fasting, right? It's all negative things will be transformed to joy. So in a certain sense, the Rebbe says a very interesting twist over here, that when Mashiach will come and the fast days will be turned into joy, that's going to fulfill the mitzvah of fasting in its ultimate purpose. Because what's the ultimate idea of the fast day? To remain with the fast day. The ultimate goal of the fast day is to bring the goal. The ultimate of the fast day is to transform, is to do tshuva, which to take away the negative thing and bring the good. So when Mashiach will come and the fast days will be transformed into joy, the person will say, "Oh, I'm losing out. We lost now the mitzvah of time." It says, "No, Adarabah. In other words, might not have the mitzvah in its literal form as we have it today, but the ultimate purpose of the mitzvah will be revealed in a much greater way. Not beruchnis, begashmius will be a yom tov.
Erev Yom Kippur, the fasting is like called fasting. I'm just
giving
an example.
Whatever, I'm saying the idea of mitzvahs is tzenecha, that in every single mitzvah, the certain mitzvahs of Mashiach will come, like Mashal, mitzvah Vidiyas Hashem, knowing the Eibishter. The Rebbe says it's not shaykh to fulfill that mitzvah until Mashiach comes properly. But in every single mitzvah, if you really think about it, the mitzvahs will be fulfilled at its highest way when Mashiach comes. And sometimes, even those things which seem to be mitzvahs associated with negative things, when the negativity is transformed to good, that's the ultimate goal of the mitzvahs. There's one more word I would say. The Mittel Rebbe has one maimed I saw, the very powerful thing, how he translates Kmitzvos Ritzeinacha. It sounds very similar to the Sikha of the Rebbe, the Hadran and Tavshin and Beis, Mrs. Patel. The Mittel Rebbe says like this. Mittel Rebbe says, what does it mean that Mashiach will come and do the mitzvahs like the Eibishter wants? So he says, now when a person does a mitzvah, he's aware he's doing a mitzvah. Even if he's doing a mitzvah with the highest level of performing the mitzvah, that he understands reason for the mitzvah, and he wants to do the mitzvah, and he loves the Eibishter, he's afraid of the Eibishter. Whatever it is, he understands the meaning of this mitzvah, and it's really permeating him. At the end of the day, there's him, he's doing the mitzvah. Or you could just there's some hispilus, the person feels that he's doing something. He says, what's Kmitzvos Tzeinecha? Kmitzvos Tzeinecha means when Mashiach will come, you'll do a mitzvah automatically. You won't. He says, he brings an example. He says the sheep is medrash that says that when Mashiach will come, the sheep will be running to the mizbeach that we sacrifice as a korban. You're not going to have to bring them. Automatically they'll go. You'll do a mitzvah, you won't even feel you're doing the mitzvah. He says the difference between a student and a teacher, and a king and his slaves. A student and a teacher, the student understands the greatness of the teacher. There's an intellectual connection between them. So he might be totally devoted to the teacher, but there's still him and there's the teacher. A slave, when the king comes and all the people, they become nullified, not because of their understanding, but because of the greatness of the king. It's like automatic. So he says, now the kima mitzvahs is in the way of chokhmah. You understand, you nullify yourself. When Mashiach will come, will be ki'ilu, as if, as he said, it'll be like automatic. They'll do it, the Eibishter's will be revealed. It's very reminiscent, even though I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing, what the Rebbe explains. So when Mashiach will come, what does it mean that it says mitzvahs betelas, mitzvahs will be nullified? It doesn't mean it will be nullified, it means that a person will do them automatically. You won't have to command him to do it. Because the will of the Eibishter will be revealed in this world. So that's what he explains, means Kmitzvos Ritzeinacha. It's the ratzon of the Eibishter, the will of the Eibishter. The world will automatically do what the Eibishter wants. So this is one of, and this is not the regular interpretation. Chassidus gives a Kmitzvos Ritzeinacha. This was in this mime, it's a very interesting called it Yichud Kesef, whatever the lashon was, but he explained that this is the connection of Knesset Tzinacha. So anyway, fine. So this is the meaning of Knesset Tzinacha, and the truth is that Knesset Tzinacha is also a level. The Rebbe says in a certain sikh, I think that there's even a higher level that Knesset Tzinacha is fulfilling mitzvahs when Moshiach will come, Beis Hamikdash, whatever. Is it's going to be a lot, whatever. The Rebbe says even Knesset Tzinacha is already a certain daga of mitzvahs. And there's even a higher level, whatever. Even higher than the Shleimus of Mitzvos. Should have all these things taken from you at Mamish.